Hi everyone, Dr. Linda Manning here in Ottawa, Ontario with this week's episode of the OCISO Career Mentorship Program series on job search strategies for immigrants in the Canadian workplace. We call this series Managing Your Career on Purpose. We've been talking about being strategic in your job search and how important it is to maintain your motivation and to align the job search realities to your job search activities. One of the most important activities you should do is research. Once you've identified your ideal job, sometimes called your career objective, you need to gather information that will help you get that job. In this session, we're going to talk about researching what companies are hiring and what kind of job postings are available. How is the industry doing in general? What are the trends that you need to be aware of? And what skills are required for the job that you want? Today, I'm here with Hedieh, who is a Mentor Recruiter and Liaison with the Career Mentorship Program at the Ottawa Community Immigrant Services Organization, or OCISO. The Career Mentorship Program matches mentors with internationally educated professionals. We sometimes call them IEPs, who are looking for work in their field. Hedieh supports and liaises with mentors who are matched with IEPs by answering their questions on job search. She also has extensive experience in social media and using social media for job search. Welcome, Hedieh. It's a pleasure having you with us today. I often see your posts in the OCISO Career Mentorship group on LinkedIn.
Thanks for having me, Linda. It's wonderful to be here. And I know as someone who works with small to medium-sized employers, you have a lot of expertise from the employer side that could help the internationally educated professionals or IEPs.
Thanks, Hedieh. Now, what would you say is one type of research that newcomers should do that they often do not?
Yes, the best way to get information about an industry and potential job postings, and especially to tap into the hidden job market, is to talk to someone who's well established in that industry. One very good way to do that is to set up what we call informational interviews or informational meetings. The job search process in a newcomer's country of origin is often very different than what it is here in Canada. So they're typically not aware of this type of research, how to do it, and how important it is.
I see. What is an informational interview and why is it important?
An informational interview is a short, informal discussion with someone working in your field so that you can get information about the field or industry. You arrive with the knowledge that industry may be different than in your country of origin and that there is probably some information that you can only get from someone who works in that field. So it's a very good opportunity to talk to someone informally and get acquainted with some of the background, some of the latest trends, and even some of the language that is used. Since the person you're interviewing is not in a position to help you find a job, there's no pressure. You're just talking to them to tell you something that they know about. Most people are happy to help you if you're asking for something they can share easily. Another benefit of the informational interview is that it can help you to build your network. After the interview, you'll have someone you know and someone who knows you in the industry. They have their own network, and you may be able to tap into that network. Another real advantage of the informational interview is the chance to get comfortable talking to someone in your field, to feel at ease in their office if that's where you meet, and generally learn the rhythm and pace of a professional conversation. It's not the same thing as a job interview, but it'll probably make you feel much more comfortable when you get real job interviews.
Okay, thank you. That's really good advice. I've used it myself. I always find it easier to talk to someone about what they know best, because everybody likes to do that. And then the informational interview isn't about the job seeker. You're asking for something that's easy for them to give, and you're letting them talk about what they know best, themselves and their job. Now, I know job seekers can make mistakes in an informational interview. What do you think is the most important or the most common mistake that they make?
There are Two common mistakes. The first one is asking for a job. So you should never ask for a job at an informational interview. The informational interview is a way for you to gather information about your industry and your field. You should present yourself as someone who's doing research in a number of different places, everything from informational interviews with several people in the field to newspaper and internet searches and even the local employment office. If you ask for a job in the informational interview, then instead of a responsible job seeker looking for information that allows you to conduct a responsible job search, you'll have asked for more than the person can give you. And this is the easiest way to lose the trust you built during the discussion, and that can ultimately cost you the relationship. People are happy to give what they have to give, but they tend to avoid situations where they can't. So keep the interview focused on information about the industry. Arrive with a list of questions to ask and resist the temptation to ask for more. The other mistake job seekers make is that they don't ask for referrals. Always ask for referrals at the end of the informational interview. Ask if there's someone they would recommend you speak to. During your conversation, they'll probably have learned more about you and your interests, so they'll likely know someone you should talk to for more information. If they suggest someone, ask them if they would be so kind as to do the introductions. So they may call the other person on your behalf or introduce you through email. And this will help you to expand your professional network faster.
Okay, so what kind of follow-up should the job seeker make after an informational interview?
You'll definitely want to thank the person for their time. Maybe it would be a good idea to send them a handwritten professional greeting card to say thanks. Include a couple of sentences about how the discussion benefited you, and then thank them for helping you connect with others in the field. The other thing is to connect with them on LinkedIn. And in the invitation, be sure to mention how valuable the informational interview was, and even mention some action you've taken as a result of the informational interview.
I'm thinking, Hedieh, preparation for the informational interview. What's the most important thing a job seeker should do to prepare?
The most important thing is that job seekers should really treat the informational interview as seriously as they would a job interview. While the conversation will be more informal and relaxed, there's a lot to gain by presenting yourself as a professional, so you need to be prepared. Learn about the person you're speaking with, so do your research. Come with questions that highlight the person's expertise and experience. In this interview, they're the focus, not you, and they should shine. You also need to dress as you would for a job interview. Show up 10 minutes before the agreed time and be prepared to wait a few minutes. If you ask for 30 minutes of their time, be sure to end the interview in 30 minutes. Be conscious of their time and show respect for how busy they are. And don't forget to thank the person and send them a thank you note afterwards.
Thank you, Hedieh. This has been very useful information about one of my favorite parts of a job search, the informational interview. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. And before you go, I'd like to ask, what resources would you recommend that newcomer job seekers turn to for more information about the informational interview? We'll put those resources in the presentation and in the transcript so everyone can use them. And one question, we did not address here because of the limited time. What questions should you ask in an informational interview, for example?
I deliberately didn't address the issue of questions to ask because that's the topic for the next job search strategy session. I'll be back with more details on the time frame, your approach, and the types of questions you should ask. And here's a list of resources that job seekers can use regarding informational meeting.
Thanks again, Hedieh. I appreciate your sharing your knowledge and expertise as a mentor, recruiter, and liaison with OCISO. I hope job seekers will have a better understanding of the informational interview and why it's such an important part of a job search strategy in today's market. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of today's job search strategy session. Remember to seek out people who are working in your field and ask for an informational interview or meeting. Prepare yourself and your questions carefully. Respect the person's time and what they can give you, and never ask for a job in the informational interview. And always ask for referrals and introductions before you leave. Then, be sure to follow up with a thank you card, and continue to stay connected with the person, especially to share successes that result from the interview. In our next session, Hedieh will return to explore the informational interview in more detail. You'll learn more about how long the interview should be and what kinds of questions you should ask. Hedieh has, in the meantime, provided us with several resources you can use to help you better understand the informational interview, how to ask for one, and how to use them effectively for your career advancement. The links to these will be included also in the transcript below. You can see them on the screen here, but we'll also make sure that they're in the transcript so that you can click on them. One lesson I've learned in my own career is that many of the strategies being presented in this series should be used throughout your career, not just when you're in the job market. How to do an informational interview is one of the skills that you should continue to use even after you have a great job. A big part of success in today's workforce is who you know and who knows you. It won't be long before you are the one invited to an informational interview. So let's talk about your challenge for this week. Have you been on an informational interview? Post a comment below to share your experience. What worked and what didn't work? What did you learn and how did you use that? Are there lessons learned that you can share? This is where you can post stories of successful informational interviews, tips you have for improving them, and even mistakes you've made that you learned from and how you would do it differently today. And if you have a question you'd like to see answered in a future job search strategy, put that in the comment section too. Thanks everybody. See you next time.